In the early hours before dawn, a sharp silence settled over the skies of the Middle East. But within minutes, that silence shattered as Iranian fighter jets roared past the borders, cutting through the darkness with a swift and calculated precision. What began as a tense standoff had now escalated into a full-scale offensive. Intelligence satellites and early warning radars in Israel picked up unusual aerial activity heading westward from Iranian airspace, but the velocity and coordination of the strike left little time to prepare. Iran had launched a surprise and direct attack, one unlike any in recent history. Leading the charge were squadrons of Iranian Seka and F-14 Tomcat jets, flying in tight formation. The jets were armed with guided air-to-surface missiles, their targets carefully chosen: Ben Gurion International Airport in Tel Aviv and the Nevatim Airbase in southern Israel, one of the most fortified and strategic military airports in the country. Simultaneously, ground-based Iranian armored divisions and missile batteries launched support fire from across their western border zones, including long-range ballistic missiles aimed to cripple Israeli radar arrays and air defense installations. The first wave of Iranian aircraft descended rapidly on Nevatim Airbase. Explosions rocked the runway as precision munitions tore through hangars, fuel depots, and fighter jet parking areas. Israeli F-35s and F-16s scrambled to respond, but the timing of the attack had caught many of them grounded or under maintenance. Sirens wailed through southern Israel as the Iron Dome and David's Sling defense systems sprang to life, intercepting several incoming missiles but unable to stop them all. Fires erupted along the eastern tarmac, with thick smoke billowing into the morning sky. Several aircraft were damaged before they could take off, while others were destroyed outright. Concurrently, Ben Gurion International Airport was plunged into chaos. Iranian fighter jets released a barrage of guided missiles targeting the control tower, fuel lines, and parked civilian planes. The intention was clear: to paralyze Israel's civil aviation and inflict maximum psychological and logistical damage. Dozens of commercial jets were destroyed or heavily damaged, and panicked civilians flooded evacuation shelters. Airport security forces, caught in the middle of a war zone, did their best to protect noncombatants as Israeli emergency forces rushed to assist. As the aerial assault pressed on, Iranian armored units positioned across the Iraqi border launched a coordinated attack using domestically built Dufakar and Karar tanks, advancing toward Israeli defense outposts in the Golan Heights. Though the terrain offered natural defensive barriers, Israeli ground forces were stretched thin, with much of their resources committed to responding to the airstrikes. Artillery fire echoed across the valleys as Iranian tanks engaged with Israeli Merkava tanks in long-range duels, both sides suffering losses in the rugged battlefield. The Israeli Air Force quickly mobilized its remaining assets, launching retaliatory sorties against Iranian military positions in western Iran and along their advancing tank columns. F-15 and F-35 jets soared through retaliatory fire, delivering bombs and missiles at Iranian launch sites and command posts. The skies over Syria became a battlefield in itself as Iranian and Israeli jets engaged in deadly dogfights, tracing loops and spirals above the clouds, while anti-aircraft systems fired volleys from the ground. As casualties mounted on both sides, international outcry surged. Emergency sessions were called at the United Nations, and global leaders urged immediate de-escalation. Yet neither Tehran nor Jerusalem showed signs of retreat. Iran's leadership hailed the operation as a strategic triumph, and a warning to any alliance that supported Israel, while the Israeli Prime Minister declared a state of emergency and vowed a powerful counteroffensive. Israeli cyber units began retaliating digitally, targeting Iran's satellite communication, disrupting GPS signals, and sabotaging drone operations mid-air. Amidst the smoke, sirens, and global condemnation, the reality on the ground was stark. Israel's international and military aviation had suffered its most significant strike in decades. Both civilian life and military logistics had been dealt a heavy blow. Still, the nation's defense forces were regrouping fast, leveraging superior air capabilities and real-time battlefield intelligence. The conflict was far from over, and as reinforcements poured in from Israeli reserves and border defenses, it became clear that the region had entered a dangerous new phase of escalation, one with the potential to redraw strategic maps and alliances across the Middle East. The world watched anxiously as two regional giants collided in a spectacle of modern warfare, Jets streaking across hostile skies, tanks grinding over scorched earth, and missiles arcing into the air with deadly intent. What began as a sudden attack now threatened to evolve into an extended war with devastating consequences.